Many of you are considering a move to Raleigh for different reasons, maybe better quality of life for your family, work, retirement, whatever it might be. And over the last few years that we've been on YouTube, you've asked us a lot of questions, and we have compiled a list of the top things that you guys have asked us, and we're putting it all together in a guide for you today.
All right, one of the top questions we get is, what part of the triangle should I live in? So it's a very subjective question. So the triangle is made up of a lot of different cities and towns. So you have obviously places like Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. You have smaller towns like Cary and Apex and Wake Forest. And where you end up is really going to be based on what your priorities are for an area. Do you want to be close to greenway trails? Cary could be the top option. Do you want new construction, but maybe you're at a price point around $500,000 or under? A Fuquay or a Clayton could be a good option. And so it's just going to be based on a lot of the different priorities you have for where you want to live. And that's something we help folks out with. You know, we have folks set up a Zoom call with us, and we kind of walk through those areas and what they want in an area and try to help them narrow that down.
Yeah, because it is a really expansive area. So it's not just like Raleigh. You know, I think people think there's all these different pockets of Raleigh, but there's not only that, but all of these other towns like Zach mentioned. So, you know, there's gonna be places that feel more urban, places that feel more rural, places that have, you know, a big scene of things to do, and places that feel like there's not so much to do. So it really just depends on your personality and what you're looking for in a home. So another question we get a lot, kind of tagging on to best places to live, is where can I fit into my budget? You know, an affordable home, and, something, you know, like maybe $400,000 and under. So you're going to have towns in the triangle that you can definitely find a house for $400,000 and under. You can kind of find them spread throughout, but predominantly places like Wendell, Clayton, Garner, and Mebane are going to give you a lot of options that feel a lot more affordable than other regions of the triangle. Yeah, and you definitely, in these areas too, you have a plethora of new construction as well. And so what we found is that, especially for first-time home buyers, new construction is a great option right now in a high interest mortgage rate environment. For sure. And you get a nice new house. You're not putting money into it from the beginning, you know, so it could be a good option for someone trying to find something that's more budget friendly. Exactly. All right, the next question we get a lot is, can I find a home without an HOA? Dun, dun, dun. And the answer is yes, you can, but it becomes significantly more difficult. So just to put some numbers behind that, when you're looking at Wake County, Durham County, and Orange County, this was just a very quick snapshot. About 80% of the currently active homes in those areas have an HOA. So you do have 20% of the homes that don't have an HOA. That obviously is an option, but you limit the availability pretty significantly. Right. And if you want to find those HOA homes, they're typically going to be in neighborhoods that are from like 1980 or older, typically, or just like a one-off kind of custom built house that's, I don't want to say the middle of nowhere, but just not within a subdivision. Anything that's going to be inside of a subdivision. So if something like having a pool is important to you, or being close to shopping centers and stuff, or having a house that's newer, you're likely going to be in an HOA. Or, and I don't have any numbers behind this, but just experience, but if having city amenities like city water, city sewer is important for you, I bet if you looked at how many of that 20% were on a septic tank and well water, the number would be staggeringly high. I bet probably 70% of what is not in an HOA is probably not in the city limits. Yeah, exactly. So if you're open to a septic tank, you're open to well water, it could work out well for you. But if you want those city amenities, it's going to be tough. It's slim pickings for sure. So you're going to add a lot of time to your home search for sure, and you're going to have to be a little less picky about like maybe the, you know, how updated the home is or anything like that, if that's going to be really important to you. And depending, I mean, people's fear of HOAs is obviously they're going to be really intrusive. They're going to be on top of you, and there are neighborhoods like that. But I mean, it is going to be neighborhood dependent. You go into some neighborhoods with an HOA, and they're very hands off. You go into other neighborhoods, and they're just, you know, hovering over you. And so it's all dependent on, honestly, who is on the HOA board and what they're doing. So it's really how picky your neighbors are that decide they're going to run for the HOA board. So, you know, it's not always terrible or anything like that. I think there's way fewer horror stories than there are horror stories out there with HOAs. Another popular question we get is, where are all the basements? Honestly, this is probably one of the top 3 questions we get. And to answer the question,
there's not a lot of basements. So really, if you have a basement in our area, it's gonna be based on the slope of the lot and just required per that slot.
Yeah.
Per the slope of the lot. So.
Right, yeah. It's not very common here. The main soil in our area is clay, so it's very dense. So digging out that far for a basement would be really expensive, and clay also holds a lot of moisture. So typically basement homes can end up having some moisture issues, so you just don't see it unless the lot is naturally already kind of sloped.
Exactly.
In which it makes sense to have a basement, but it's not super common, you know, so if having a basement's important to you, that's going to take a long time to find.
You will find homes though with attic storage, so maybe they have like a third floor walk-in attic, or you know something along those lines to kind of help alleviate some of the lost storage you have with the basement.
Yeah, for sure. Or there'll be like a third floor, or just a second floor, like a large bonus kind of room or something like that, where you know maybe you don't have that in a basement home and you would be using the basement as more of a rec room. We have those kind of things. It's just not underground.
Yeah, exactly.
So next on our list is, should I go new construction or resale in the market?
I love this question.
You know, it's really up to you and depends on what you prefer in a home, but about 50% of our inventory in the Triangle is new construction. So there's a good chance that that is gonna come up in your home search for sure.
I still think, like, and I kind of hit on this earlier, if you are a first-time home buyer or you just don't have the budget to deal with going way over asking, or you know, risk money on due diligence deposits, I think new construction is a fantastic way to go right now.
Yeah, for sure.
The incentives are good, the inventory is good, the competitiveness is lower than the resale market. I think it's a fantastic option.
Yeah, not a fantastic option if having a large yard is important to you, because all the new construction you're gonna find is gonna be pretty much just clear-cut neighborhoods. You know, some of them have nice amenities, like places in the Window Falls that have a lot more green space that was preserved. You yourself are not going to have a yard, but there is going to be that opportunity within the neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
If this video has been helpful to you, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. We put out videos like this every week, and we'd love to have you as part of our community here on a weekly basis.
Another question we commonly get is, what are the employment opportunities like in our area? And they're fantastic. So when you look at our area, the economy is really diversified across different spectrums in the economy. So you have really high quality healthcare systems here. Duke is actually, I think, the largest employer in our area because of the healthcare system they have. But you have Duke, you have Wake Med, you have UNC, which are all huge healthcare industries in our area. You have the Research Triangle Park, which is a massive employer in the area. So you have about 300 plus companies in the Research Triangle Park alone. You have other, tech companies kind of spread throughout as well. It's just a great area when it comes to employment. The biomedical scene here is huge. The university scene is huge, and so there's just a ton of employment opportunities across all spectrums of industries.
Yeah, for sure. If those things don't float your boat, and you maybe are like a school teacher or something like that, the public school systems in Wake County is one of the largest employers in the area as well. And even working at Duke, within Duke, it's not just doctors and nurses, right? They have a lot of support staff, admin roles. So a lot of people work for the Duke healthcare system that aren't necessarily healthcare trained per se. So it's not like, oh, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to live there. Or I'm not a scientist, so
and that goes for all the medical systems, not just Duke.
Yeah, for sure. So there's just a lot, and then just the university system in general has a lot of support and admin
about
staff.
Trip and fell.
I'm gonna fall. I'm gonna need to go to Duke soon when I break my leg. So next on the list is, can I live somewhere that feels walkable in the Raleigh area? Probably not. There's a small amount of housing that's going to feel really walkable, like to downtown, but it's definitely not like the structure of most of the Triangle. It's like we had mentioned earlier in the video, all of our suburbs are pretty spread out, and you are definitely, it's going to be hard to live without a car unless you're living like in a downtown apartment.
I think the likelihood of you living in a walkable area outside of an apartment is very slim. So there is a rise of more densely populated areas. They're building condos to kind of help with that, but it's just not, this area is just not densely populated enough to have a walkable feel to it. It's very spread out. It's got a very suburban feel to it. Like Cindy said, you're going to need a car. It's just, walkability is just not, it's just not a thing here. Maybe it will be in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, I don't know, but as of now, this is not a walkable area. All right, this is probably the most common question we get. And the question is, what is up with the school system? So the school system in our area is very complicated for one reason, because you have multiple school systems in our area. So when you think of the Triangle, you're really thinking of 3 main counties. You're thinking of Wake County, Durham County, Orange County. They are all their own school system. Orange County even has 2 school systems, because you have the Chapel Hill Carborough school system within the Orange County school system. But a lot of folks that we work with are moving into the Wake County area, which has the most complicated school system. And the reason for that is there's so many different options, right? So in Wake County, you have schools that are year-round, you have schools that are traditional, you have magnet schools, you have charter schools, you have schools that are capped and you can't get into even if you move into that school district. You have schools that aren't capped. And so it's just a very complex situation. And the good news is we have a resource for you if you're struggling with the complexity of the school system, and we're happy to pass that along to you. So if you do have questions about the school system, feel free to reach out and we'll pass along a resource who is actually a school consultant. Our area is so complicated, we need school consultants in our area. A part of that question too is how good are the school systems, right? And that's a question we there's a thin line with how we can answer and how we cannot answer, so.
Yeah, for sure. With different fair housing laws and steering laws that we have with being licensed real estate agents, we can't tell you this is a bad school, this is a good school.
Yeah. But the school consultant can.
We can let the school consultant do that for you. So definitely reach out if you're interested in that. And we do have a whole video kind of going over a lot of things Zach mentioned. Cap schools, charter schools, magnet schools, what are the differences? We do have a whole video on our channel kind of explaining those differences. So definitely be sure to check that out if you want more details.
And we can give you like a 30,000 foot view of the school system, but it's when you get into kind of the nitty gritty nature of, what schools are good, what schools are bad, that's kind of where we offload that to the school consultant.
Yeah. So a question we get a surprising amount of times is, are there natural disasters in Raleigh? There's really not. I think people moving from other parts of the country have a different lens that they've lived life through with wildfires or hurricanes or tornadoes in their areas. We really don't experience much of any of that here. We are located on the East Coast, but we are not a coastal city. So when hurricanes do come, we might get some rain and wind, but we're not like experiencing the hurricane here in Raleigh for the most part. I don't think we've really experienced anything in like almost 30 years here. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I think in general we get pretty mild weather here, whether it's in the wintertime or the summertime. Now, I mean, this is the South, so we do have, the storms that roll through, sometimes on a daily basis in the summer, not like Florida level or anything, but where it'll rain really hard and have a decent sized storm for a short duration of time in the summer. But as far as like catastrophic natural disasters, our area just doesn't have that.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah, which is a great thing. All right, next up on the list is the question, can I find a house in a weekend? And the answer to that is probably a no. And the reason for that is this area is huge geographically, and people don't really realize that until they come into the area and they experience how far or how long it takes to get from one part of the Triangle to another part of the Triangle. Now, if you are intimately familiar with the area, you've been here multiple times, maybe you have family in the area, or maybe you have a job and you want to be within a certain radius of that job, you could probably find a house in a weekend.
Right.
I'm more of thinking about people who they don't have roots in the area. There's nothing connecting them to, a Wake Forest or a Fuquay or a Raleigh. They're kind of open to the general Triangle. They're moving here for a quality of life improvement, and they're trying to combine like an exploratory trip with a house buying trip. And it honestly, our experience has been when those two are combined, it overwhelms you.
Yeah, for sure. Because if you're open to the whole Triangle and you might want to go look at a house in Mebane and then you want to go look at a house in Clayton, those two areas are like an hour and a half apart from one another. So you're just going to spend your whole time driving on the highway, and you're not going to you're going to get to the house and then go immediately to the next house. You're never actually going to see the town of Mebane, the town of Clayton, the restaurant scene, the parks and things like that. So it's definitely, if you're able to either plan a longer stay or plan a second trip or something like that, so that you can really explore and decide, is Clayton the right place for me, or is Raleigh the right place for me? Instead of trying to do it all in a full day, give yourself some time to figure out what really feels like
Exactly.
home.
I always tell those people who aren't necessarily rooted to a specific part of the Triangle, area first, house second. So when you come to town, make that trip. mostly about the area and less about the house. And once you narrow down the area that feels right for you or feels right for your family, then the house search becomes much, much simpler after that.
For sure.
I'm Zach, this is my beautiful wife, Cindy. We are a couple of real estate agents in the area. If you're looking to buy, maybe move into the area, or you're looking to sell, we'd love to be your real estate resource of choice. You can find our contact info below. You can also find us on Instagram.
Yep, you can follow along with us on Instagram at the Honeycutt Realtors, or you can find our contact info on our website, honeycutteam.com, and we look forward to connecting with you.
Yep. We'll see y'all next time.